Oh, great. Yeah, so Zach is the co-writer he goes away for Passover, so he's in Florida. But he actually lives next door in the Laureate, and that's where he lived for the past decade and still lives. And the idea came because Zach and his family, who, I mean, you guys know very well, they have these very lively Shabbat dinners on the Upper West Side. If you're ever here, it's the Laureate next door. You just show up on a Friday night, you say wiener, and they'll probably let you up. And they have a lot of guests, and his mom sometimes pranks someone just to keep things light. And Adam was talking with Zach and said, what would happen if one of these pranks ended up with someone dying? And Zach said, that could be a pretty funny movie. And Adam's like, well, let's call Daniel. They called me. I said, that could be a pretty funny movie. And then the three of us worked on the story together, and everything just clicked in place pretty magically, which doesn't always work out.
Fun. Did you know where it was going the whole time, how this was going to end? Did it evolve as you were writing it?
The general shape of it was pretty much the same, of climaxing with the body going off the balcony. But then the script went through 45 drafts to get every line right. And the one thing that came really late was why Meg's parents would ever go along with this. Like, we couldn't figure it out in the outline phase. We said, I mean, the guy dies, like, they're going to know something is up, and we couldn't crack it. And then Zach just wrote the scene, and he came up with the line, we get Thanksgiving. Because his sister just got married and the in-laws were negotiating the holidays. And I said, wow, that's genius, because I've seen that happen with my sisters. So that final touch came pretty late.
Brilliant. I love it. And of course, first of all, I have to say, just like, to have a comedy right now like this, in this kind of tone, is really necessary. So thank you. Beyond that, why was it important for you to tell the story and to make this film? Or is there nothing beyond that?
I think there are two parts. The first was just to make a really funny comedy based on the movies that we love that we feel like aren't being made anymore. That's like movies in the vein of like Meet the Parents, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, that have real heart and humor. And even going back further, like The Birdcage, which is similar to this film. And even if you go back further to the 40s, like the great Howard Hawks comedies that are very talky and very intelligent and fun, and they still make me laugh, but I feel like now comedies have become a little lazy. So we all thought, like, what if we can just, put in a lot of effort and try to make something that we'd enjoy. And then the second part of it is that I grew up modern Orthodox, he grew up Jewish in New York City, and we feel like it hasn't been depicted authentically. I grew up in Westchester, so it's not the same, but it's close. And we thought if we could just capture that energy authentically and mix that with a great comedy, that's a movie that we'd want to see, and hopefully others would feel the same.
Also, when we talked about it in the beginning, it was like I'd never really seen a Shabbat movie. Like, there's been Shabbat scenes in movies, but never like a full Shabbat theme movie, and it's actually it's a funny setting, I feel like, that you could do a comedy in, because you can't use electronics. You're in a house, you're with your family after a long week. It's like you have guests. Like, it's just, there were a lot of ways that you could play with that setting of a crazy night. A Shabbat dinner gone wrong was the kind of idea. But yeah, I never, it was fun. It was, to make like a true Shabbat movie. It was like, I feel like it hasn't been done.
We've shown them all here, and there have been Shabbat ones,
Maybe
but not as good.
Not good ones.
Not as good as this one, that's for sure. I have a lot more to ask, but I'll ask two more, and then we'll open it for questions from the audience, because I'm sure you have a lot to ask. But I'm curious if anybody non-Jewish has ever seen this film, and how they reacted.
Yeah. That was a big question, because we won the audience award in Tribeca, and everyone celebrated, but of course, someone's grandmother says, well, of course it's going to work in New York. Like, that's the Jewish crowds. And we got accepted to a film festival in Reno, Nevada called, are you from Reno? Oh, no, you just like it. Yeah, it's like Vegas. They have Circus, but a little cheaper. And we went out there because, do you know how many Jews are in Reno? It's two. There's the Chabad rabbi and then his wife. And no one else at the screening was Jewish. So it was like 220 people. We're like, we got to see how this goes. So we took 2 flights. And then the reaction was like even bigger than Tribeca. And then it won the audience award there and the jury award. Because the goal of this was to do like a...
There were a lot of anti-Semites in the audience who...
Well, the goal was for it to be like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where I'm not Greek, but it's one of my favorite movies. So we tested it with so many, mainly non-Jewish audiences, because we wanted it to be accessible. And the POV of the movie is through the Christian character, Meg. And to them, like, everything is interesting because they haven't seen these traditions before. So there's this whole other layer of intrigue. While for Jews, they just like, oh, another Dvar Torah. Like, great.
Yeah, I feel like people just find New York Jews fun to be funny. The only people that are actually like offended by this are Jewish people. Like
Which is like My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Serious Jewish, yeah. But
You said serious Jewish
like
people,
very
or
like
did you say Syrian Jewish
conservative Jewish people. Those are the only people that would be rubbed the wrong way by it, but never. If anything, the non-Jewish people just find it funny. We've had a lot of interfaith couples come to screenings and tell us like, "Oh, I'm in interfaith marriage," and and that's kind of a nice thing too.
Fantastic. No, and clearly comedy is something that actually does, is universal and can reach beyond just the insiders. And that's the one of the signs of a successful movie is when the comedy is so specific, but yet manages to reach universally. So I think you've done that here. The last question I'll ask before handing you over to the Wolves here is that's their last name. Casting, of course. We got to talk about the casting for this film, and how did this cast come together? Some really big names in there. Did they all know what they were getting into, or did you sign them on for another movie and then got them into this one?
Adam, just like with the casting directors, we made a list of who we would most want, and then they reached out and they got in touch with the agents. Adam worked at WME for a while, so he has some connects, and then him with the casting directors were able to reach these people. And he always believed that as long as they read the script, we'll have a chance. And he got the agents to read the script, they laughed, and then the actors just liked it. Like Kira said, it was one of the only times she laughed out loud reading a script. And she also lives in the area, as some of you may know, so it was a very easy shoot. She didn't have to move. She stayed home. She woke at her apartment. She woke up, said bye to Kevin, and then came to set every day. So I think that helped with the. There's one. She's married to Kevin Bacon, and they live near here. So I think that helped with her. And then once she was in place, I think the rest of the cast was just kind of excited about it.
Yeah, I think it just came down to the script was people found it original and funny and fresh, and then once it was a big puzzle to figure out because there's so many pieces, it's a big cast, but it's a small movie, limited resources, but once like a couple of them came on, John and Kira, and then it was like the rest quickly fell into place, but ultimately it was like just getting people to really read the script.
And we were nervous working with this cast because they're more famous than us. But Kira really led the way, where she was just so invested and like really gave it her all and would read the script, give notes, always knew her lines, would come up with ideas even after the day was over. And everyone, when they saw her doing that, like everyone kind of followed. And also we shot in a real apartment on the Upper West Side, which is unusual. Usually you would build a set in a studio somewhere, but that's more expensive, and we also wanted it to feel authentic. So all the actors pretty much shared like 1 or 2 rooms in the apartment when they're each supposed to have their own, with their own bathroom. So we weren't sure how it would go, but she led the way. Once she was cool with it, everyone else.
How long was the shoot? How long was the production?
Does anyone know a significant number in Judaism? Yeah, that's 18 days.
18 days, perfect. High days. Is there an end to the joke?
Oh yeah, we cut it, but I could tell you the joke, and then you'll be the only ones who know it. Maybe we could end the Q&A with the joke.
Let's end the Q&A with the joke. That forces everybody to stay through the Q&A.
And then
we have a microphone, and we're going to pass the microphone around. We'll start down here.
Hey, so what was your first step after finished writing your script?
Well, I think it was Adam just gave a lot of notes to make it great. And then once he felt it was right, he partnered with the casting directors to take it out to cast. And just hoped that they would say yes. And we got. I didn't think this would work out, but thankfully it did. Baruch Hashem. And is Eileen here still? Oh, hey, thanks for coming. I actually gave an offer speech at her son's wedding, and he made the mistake of telling us it would just be the guys, but when we showed up, it was everyone, like all the generations, plus the grandparents, and I gave this incredibly inappropriate speech. And I thought she would never talk to me again, but she came, which is very nice, so thank you.
Dan, I'm just wondering, what are you working on now?
We each have a couple ideas that we're working on. One together that we hope to get going is a Hanukkah holiday movie, because we feel like there isn't one that we love yet. There's 8 Crazy Nights, but it's not. You don't watch it every year, so we have an idea that hopefully comes together.
You made some references to some 90s comedies. I think while watching the movie, I detected maybe a little of maybe a little bit more contemporary, like Edgar Wright in the pacing and in some of the physical comedy. I was wondering how you decided to pace this movie, how you decided to use physical comedy and things like that, because it is a little bit faster, a little bit tighter maybe than some of those 90s films.
Yeah, that's a great point. Where even though we do point to those films of the past, this does have a breakneck pace. I think it's just because modern audiences expect quickness. Like we all listen to podcasts on 1.5 speed. That I think if things are... And even in the scripting phase, the actual script was about 120 pages, which is supposed to be 1 minute per page. So it should have been a 2-hour movie. And we got some flack for that. But I said, no, when you listen to how Upper West Siders talk, you'll know that it's a 90-minute movie. And the finished movie with credits is now 84 minutes. And to get the pace right, it was the actors just speaking quickly, and our editor, Kate Plum, just really being relentless. And there were a lot of times you would cut frames out just to get to a joke faster or add frames back in to give something more space. So it's in the pre-production and the production. And we did try to do a lot of physical comedy in this because people call it slapstick and they think, oh, it sounds cheesy because the word slapstick is bad, but it's actually one of the highest forms of comedy if you do it well. Like Buster Keaton, who everyone still laughs at if you put on one of his movies. So like the body missing the thing makes me laugh, the soup, like these things are ridiculous in and of itself, but we always said if we can make the story feel believable, these things will be funny. So, we did everything we could to make it authentic and quick. Yeah, that's a good question.
So I just want you to know I saw this movie last month in Naples. And
Welcome back.
thank you. And that night I texted the 6 of these over here and I said, I'm buying tickets. It's going to be sold out. You haven't heard about it yet, but it's going to be big. But to let you know one thing, it's just as charming, if not more so, the second time around.
Oh, nice.
Truly, it is.
The fifth time when you got to
Okay. But just curious.
It's making box office in South Florida because of people seeing it over and over again.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Mostly because they don't remember it.
Well, hey. But seriously, a question. We travel a lot. We've come across a lot of JCC listings or just Jewish film festivals. How can, from the bottom up, who do you let know? Who do you contact? Who do you say, I saw a film at the Jewish Film Festival. This might be a really good option. How does that process work? How do you get out there?
Wait, how do
you get the word out?
How do you get the word out to other Jewish film festivals? How do people find out about the film?
Oh, well, if you put your email down, I send updates just from my personal email. Also, a post on Facebook goes a long way.
Well, it's coming to theaters in New York on May 23rd, Memorial Day weekend. So, yeah, like...
Grab your postcards as you leave.
Yeah, like, it's great if people can come see it in a theater like this. So it'll be like, the AMC in Times Square and Kips Bay and Chelsea and the Quad Cinema, like, cinemas around Manhattan and the suburbs and everywhere else. But,
yeah.
So, yeah, tell your friend,
And I promise we do plan to bring it back to the Upper West Side. That's a goal.
you can talk
Menemsha
to
Films is
Neil.
the director, the head of Menemsha Films, Neil
Yeah,
Friedman.
follow
is here in the
Menemsha
audience.
Films on social media, Instagram, Facebook.
And you could ask him about specifics because he's hitting almost every theater in the country.
Yeah, I have a question. So thank you for a funny movie. One thing I felt like it was missing to get a true, complete, authentic picture was politics. There was no politics around the table, and every Shabbat dinner I ever went to in my life, people talk politics.
Yeah.
So I was wondering about the decision to avoid it, and besides maybe the minor thing that was there, is the son wants to go to the IDF. I was wondering, in the current climate, did you get any criticism for that kind of storyline?
Yeah, both great questions. So with the politics, that's always at the table, but we didn't want it in the film because you don't want things that take people out of the story. And as soon as you touch on Democrat or Republican, people are thinking of an article they read or the person who pissed them off. So we tried to keep them in it. And then for the IDF, of course, we've gotten complaints from people, but our goal was to, one, make a funny movie, and two, just have an authentic portrayal of an Upper West Side family. And it includes a character like that because we know them and my friends know them. And I think for a comedy, if you play it too safe, it's just going to become stale and not feel exciting and funny. So we just leaned into it. And some people said we should lean out, but we just kept going with it. And Adam was really supportive.
We have time.
The audience approves. We have another question up there.
First, thank you so much for giving me such a good laugh. The whole death scene was like a series of rolling laughter. Two questions. Timing and choice of the title, because it resonates a bit with Bad Sisters in more ways than one, in a good way. And also, just because none of us knew, I love that you... I think doormen also are sort of really underportrayed, and New Yorkers know the relationship with the doorman it's hard to quite, grasp. And I think you did a beautiful job of both the character and the relationship, but I don't know what that gesture was at the end.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because, my parents still live at the same place that I grew up in on the Upper East Side. And, I have doormen there that have known me since I'm 3-4 years old that have had my back, that I've needed for weird favors or at 4 in the morning or whatever it is, or help take care of me or bring me in after a drunken night, whatever it is. It's it really is a bond where they treat you like family, and it's I'm so glad you said that.
And
Method Man is just he makes such a good doorman.
Do
People actually thought he was the doorman, and when we were filming it in the lobby, and he was in the doorman, and people delivery men were coming up to him and we're like, "That's Method Man. That's not the doorman." It's like a huge famous rapper, but people were like, he was playing the role of door. It was very funny actually.
And the sign he does when he leaves this is earlier on. He's talking about how plan A and plan B, and they're like, we should stick to A, and he's like, okay, I'll get B and C going. So when he takes the body, he shouts plan B, and then when he leaves, if the body missed, plan C was the note. But Method Man he's a member of the Wu-Tang Clan. You could look it up, but he's amazing.
Yeah.
And he really almost steals the movie, which is tough.
I think he does.
And one more special guest. We have Catherine from 42 West. Our publicity firm is here. So if you have any publicity needs, they're the best in the business. They represent Martin Scorsese, who we know very well.
Good. We got a question in the middle. This woman's been very patient with her hand.
I just wanted to ask, how did you get it so right with how somebody who's converting feels? Because personally, I have said, am I saying it right? Is Shabbat Shalom or is it Good Shabbos? And you got it so right on. So who did you know? Because you have to know a convert to understand that.
Zach, the co-writer, was actually dating a girl named Meg from Wisconsin, whose parents' names were John and Beth. We didn't change much.
So what else was true in this film? Is there anything else you'd like to confess here?
I think it mostly ends there. So it was just really pulling from real life and then trying to make it as funny as possible. Like we always love the line of, I think someone once said at the Shabbos, oh, so the Old Testament's like the prequel, right? We have to use that. But it helped that having Megan, the actress's name is also Megan, and she is like this ball of just authenticity and love. And it was hard to find because we needed someone that the audience would love and be like, and believe. Right, one, believe that she would want to go through this and she has that tenacity, and two, that David would go through this nightmare just to be with her. And we think she, luckily we found her and she crushed it. I'll let her know you said so.
We're going to take two last questions. There's one up there and one down here. And then don't worry, we're going to tell the punchline of the joke.
So I'm just wondering, why did they not use the service entrance in the kitchen to take out the body?
Oh, wow.
Why what?
No, this is a great question that we discussed on set. That they have, that you could see with the door that there's a service entrance to the kitchen that they could have used for the body. We just didn't want that to exist. But it was a real apartment and the door was there.
A question only asked in New York,
it's
right?
It's so sharp, though.
We'll take one last question down here.
Because it might have been like an alternate elevator or something.
I have a basketball question.
Basketball question.
Well, we had a basketball shot in the movie, and we even had an NBA player's name mentioned. Now, this is an Upper West Side movie, New York. I am a Knick season ticket holder. And we did not mention a Knick. We mentioned Steph Curry.
It's true, yeah.
So what do the writers have to say about that?
That's a great question. I think growing up, when we would shoot into waste baskets, nobody shouted Frazier. They would shout Kobe. And so too today, when kids or people take shots, they're not shouting Brunson as much as we love him. They're shooting Curry. They're shouting Curry. But that's a good question. And Adam's a diehard Knicks fan, as is Neil, our distributor. So you'll have to talk to them about that.
So I'm going to remind everyone that it's May 23 is the opening, but give us the punchline to the joke.
Oh yes, and also if anyone
You're looking up at the stars.
All right, and if anyone runs into my mom, please tell her you enjoyed the movie because all the items in the movie are from her house. And she likes people to know that because she didn't get paid for it, so she really got paid in nachas. So the more people who see it, okay. The joke. So it's this rabbi and his student are walking in the old country, and they decide to pitch their tent for the night in some meadow, and then they fall asleep. And a few hours later, they wake up, and the rabbi nudges his student, and he says, Avi, look up, and what do you see? So Avi looks up, and he says, well, I see a million stars, Rabbi. He says, yeah, well, what can you learn from this? And Avi says, I think we can learn that there are millions of stars in the sky, and even though they all seem separate, they're actually all part of the same universe, and they're connected the same way each of us, even though we feel like separate people, we're all connected under Hashem. And the rabbi said, wow, that's really nice. And Avi said, well, Rabbi, what does this mean to you? So the rabbi looks up, and he says, Avi, I think someone stole our tent. Maybe, now I think we should have left it in the movie. But now, when people see it and they'll say, man, I wish I knew that joke, you can tell it to them because you came to this. So please spread the word. And thank you. All right, and thank you. Well, thank you, Isaac and Juliet and the JCC for having us on the Upper West. This was so much fun, guys.
Thank you so much. We'll have you back again. Thank you, folks. Have a good night.